Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. We're just going to give everybody 1 minute to come in, and then we will get started. And then, dear attendees, if you want to say hi in the chat in the meantime, let us know where you're joining from and maybe what brought you here today. That'd be fantastic. Zoom takes a minute to let everybody in, which is why we're giving people a little bit extra time. Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome, Sean. Bravest attendee. Ooh, we've got 2 people from Chicago, Vegas. So wonderful to have you here. Thank you for spending today with us. Great. Well, welcome everybody, and let's get started. My name is Vera Fishman, and I manage career services at Coursera. And I'm very excited about this panel today because we are here to talk about holiday job search. And what better day to talk about the holiday job search than December 1st. We're officially in the first day of the month of December. We have 4 amazing panelists today, and my colleague Laura is also here to help us out. But before it, I'm going to give each panelist a chance to introduce themselves. But before we do that, I do want to go over a few housekeeping items. And first of all, for those of you who are wondering, this webinar is being recorded. We will be sharing a recording over email in the next couple of days. So if you ever want to share it with someone, you will have access to that recording. We will be taking a lot of questions. So the format is the panelists are here ready to talk about the holiday job search. And I'm hoping this is going to be really conversational. I'm really excited about all of the expertise that we have in the room. So if you do want to ask questions, please make sure to use the Q&A feature in Zoom. So please do not use, put your questions in chat because there might be other conversations happening in chat. We might miss your questions. So please put your questions in Q&A. We will try to get to as many questions as possible. I will be prioritizing questions that are focused on holiday job search, but of course you're welcome to ask other questions related to job search as well. One thing I'm going to ask is if you're asking a follow-up question on anything a particular panelist said, please do include context for what you're referring to, who is the panelist this question is for, and what were they talking about, just because if we don't notice your question at that very moment, it can be difficult to tell what you're asking about, and we want to make sure that questions are clear and we can address them in a relevant way. I think that that's all I had actually for the housekeeping items. Let's keep it light. And now, without further ado, I would love to introduce our panelists today. And to get us started, I'm not even going to try to attempt to introduce all of you because you're amazing. And I'm going to give each of you a chance to introduce yourself. So to just give it a little bit of structure, let me call on you in the way that you're showing up on my screen. And please tell us, introduce yourself, tell us where you work, what you do, and maybe give us a little bit of context of what it is that you do in the context of job search. There's a lot of different expertise in the room today. And just to set the ground, let the attendees know what it is that you know about what kind of things they can be asking you to make the most out of your expertise. So without any more further ado, Jose, do you mind getting us started?
Sure, don't mind at all. Vera, thank you so much. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be on this webinar and to share with all the members and learners about what we do here, what I specifically do here at Career Circle, and about my team. So again, my name is Hosea Jones. I am the Business Development Manager here at Career Circle. And that's just fancy for I help learners find employment. So I work with our recruiter teams to get an understanding of what members are looking for, what career path they want. I'm also in the marketplace speaking to employers directly about their hiring, about their interview process, how many openings, where, and what they're specifically looking for. So when I talk to candidates and I talk to employers, I know exactly what the candidates want. I know exactly what the employers want. And I bridge the gap, mirror them together, and hopefully the members find gainful employment or the right place where they want to work. I've been with Career Circle for a year now. We are a new entity under a larger umbrella called Allegiance Group, but total I've been with the company for about 8 years now.
Awesome. So Hosea, thanks for the introduction. And you know a lot about how recruiting agencies work. Is that correct? Yes.
A whole lot, from a recruiter to an account manager to an area director. So I know a lot about the market, not only in the state that I live in, but all 50 states, because again, as the business development manager, I am tasked with knowing the markets in all the major cities, but also in all the states as well. So I don't know how my little brain contains it all, but somehow it does. So I know a ton about recruiting, a ton about how to search for jobs, especially during this time frame, what managers are looking for, how the markets are. Yeah, so that's why I'm so excited to be on here to answer any and all questions that you all may have about job searching during this time.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Roshan, you're next on my screen.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Roshan Patel. I'm honored to be here. I think Hosea did a good job of the introduction of what a recruitment cycle actually is. So I'll tell you from an internal standpoint. So my job here at Coursera, I work on the talent team as an internal recruiter. So our job is a little bit different from the individuals who work outside of an organization, where I actually partner directly with our leaders across the board to understand what their resources is and help with the planning of those resources moving forward to be able to properly allocate folks like yourself into those positions so they can be hired into these roles. So I do a little bit different, where I do full cycle recruitment. So I'm there from the very beginning to understanding what the job is, what we are looking for, how we're going to find these people, what is the market we're going to dive into, understanding the localization, understanding who to be reaching out to. And then from an internal standpoint, also working with the hiring manager to set up his interview panels, understand what they're going to be evaluating for, understand what takes a good evaluation versus not a good evaluation. So all of these things are aligned to what I help our talent, from my talent perspective, what I help our hiring leaders accomplish, as well as from a candidate perspective. I'll be the first person that you reach out to. So I'll be the one reaching out to you saying, hey, you're great for this job. Let's talk. Let me tell you how great Coursera is. And then I will be that person to guide you throughout your entire interview process all the way until you get that offer to join us. And then afterwards, we're going to be great friends. So that's kind of my job as an internal recruiter, not only to help you, get your career, but also help our internal partners find individuals that's going to help them take their goals, their business opportunities, their projects to the next level.
Yeah. So you have a lot of friends, huh?
I try to. It definitely helps having friends in this role or in this job. Definitely networking is going to be your number one opportunity, more so than even having a great application or anything like that. I would say the people that you know and the network that you're able to establish. The reason I say that, relationships are what leads many people or majorities of people to an actual opportunity, right? I would say that is the biggest thing that an internal recruiter can do, is expand their network. And you as a job applicant is to expand your network and always have your network help you basically land the job of your dreams.
Fantastic. I have a feeling that we'll have some follow-up questions about that, Roshan. Thanks. And Pam, do you mind introducing yourself as well?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. My name is Pamela Skillings. I'm a longtime career coach, former HR person. and the founder of a site called biginterview.com. So these days I'm all about teaching people how to ace their interviews and also teaching companies how to interview more effectively and not let bias creep in. So I talk to people on both sides of the process, which also, of course, helps me with my job seeking clients because I can help them get a better understanding of what the other person is thinking about when the interview is happening and how to present themselves in the best possible way. So that's really my focus. I also work with people on career change and other career development issues, but the art of the interview is probably my main focus.
Oh, fantastic. So interviewing and then everything, just everything related to career is your area.
Once you find that opportunity, you know, you got to know how to close the deal, right?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. And Charmaine.
Hi everyone, my name is Charmaine. I am representing PathRise. We are a career accelerator, a small tech startup in San Francisco, California. And we focus a lot on mentorship. And so I'm a career mentor and also now one of the career mentor leads in the company. And so the way that PathRise helps job seekers is through mentorship. That's our key value. We really accompany job seekers and really help them to figure out what are, the gaps or deficiencies that they are running into in their job search and really being able to one-on-one develop action plans and help them figure out how to optimize their job search process, whether that is through, optimizing their profile, their Facebook, LinkedIn, even GitHub on some occasions, and then also networking, building up, their interview pipeline, and then also then focusing on interview conversion all the way through offer negotiation. So I think I'm really excited because as much as we help the individual job seeker, we also are able to rely on our growing alumni community that's, about 800 strong. So on a day-to-day basis, I am in calls with job seekers and really working on, accountability, new strategies, and even what to do over the holidays. So I was actually just talking about some of the things that are the subject matter for this call earlier today. So really, really excited to be here.
That is fantastic. And before I start real questions, just to get us in a holiday mode, I was hoping maybe each one of you can share a favorite holiday season drink. Whoever is ready to answer that question first.
I can go.
Sure.
I am a big fan of hot cocoa with marshmallows. Typically, the more marshmallows, the better.
That sounds good.
Peppermint mocha. That is a nice treat during the holiday season for me at my local Starbucks.
Is that just a Starbucks drink or is that available outside?
Oh, no, I think there are different kinds. And I think sometimes people throw the liqueur in there, to make it a little more festive. But yeah.
Apple cider for me. Hot apple cider.
Is that alcohol or no alcohol?
You can have it either way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll go with the tried and true. I like eggnog both ways.
I'll be completely honest, I have never tried eggnog. And I aspire to every holiday season, maybe this year finally. And we have someone who likes pumpkin spice in chat. Great choices. I love how everybody had a different answer to that. Thank you for sharing. All right. So as I said, I'm hoping that we're going to go really conversational. I want to be able to follow up on what you share. I want to share our attendees' questions. But I do want to kind of set the ground and start the conversation, give each one of you an opportunity to talk about this job search during the holiday season, because the reason I'm so excited about this conversation is there is a lot of preconceptions about what job search during the holiday season is like. And I should caveat that with saying that the focus is probably, this conversation is probably going to be relatively US centric because of the nature of the holiday season, but hopefully a lot of it is also going to translate onto different parts of the world. So I'm going to maybe, again, I'll ask each participant to share and just tell us, like, what are your thoughts on the holiday season? Like, what do you see from employers? What do you see from job seekers? Do you think it's a good time to look for a job? Is it a bad time to look for a job? I think I have my own guesses about that, but would love to hear from you. And let's go in a slightly different order now. Pam, do you mind getting us started?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say is that this year is different than any other year from my experience. I think things that you might have counted on about the holiday job search in the past, it's just a whole different game this year. And I think obviously there's a lot of negatives that go with what's happening right now in the world, but I think one positive is that I don't think there's going to be quite as much of a slowdown as maybe there is in the typical year, because things are changing so quickly. Companies have to adapt. The hiring continues. There's not as likely of a chance that the hiring manager is going to take off for a month to go, to Europe and not be able to move forward with the process. So I think there might be more opportunity. I do know that we're busy in terms of people signing up, in terms of both, on my one-on-one coaching clients as well as big interview users in general. I'm hearing about jobs coming out, and there definitely was a lull, a few months ago. Although, of course, some companies kept hiring throughout the last year or so. But I do think that it's an opportunity, really, even in past years, because there are a lot of people who decide, hey, things aren't really moving. I'm going to take the time off from the job search, enjoy the holidays. And of course, you should enjoy the holidays too. But I think if you keep your eyes out, and especially this year, I think it really is an opportunity to jump on things that come up and possibly get an edge on the competition.
Fantastic, thank you. And I see a lot of you are nodding. Roshan, do you mind going next? And
yeah, I mean, I would say I would mimic everything that Pam just mentioned. This has definitely been an abnormal year. I would say typically around this time, most people would see a little bit of slowdown just because of what you mentioned. People are out of the office, taking vacations, whatever it may be. But from an internal standpoint this year, I think we've noticed that a lot of those conversations, a lot of those things that would have happened next year are now happening now or have already happened. So we have better idea of what we're looking for in 2021 now, because that planning phase has already been done. Whereas in years past, it would have been done in mid-December versus, let's say, end of November. So this is actually a great time to look, because we are now understanding of what we're looking for in 2021. And like all hiring processes, and this is a trade secret, everyone internally, when they want to hire someone, they wanted to hire them yesterday, right? So the idea is, if we're able to put you through the process now, you have a great opportunity to join the organization in January when those headcounts officially become active, right? So that's that's a caveat that I would utilize now. The other thing is that this is a great opportunity to network. A lot of people utilize this time to go on vacation, take holidays, or not basically decompress, from their work. This is actually a great time to reach out to those executive leaders or those recruiters or those engineering managers, hiring managers, because they're less inundated with all of the other work that they have to do. And they have a little bit more time to be able to review these profiles or review emails. And if they don't respond directly, they guarantee you will send you to someone like myself, and I would be reaching out, right? So it's just another way to be able to get your foot in the door and continue to network, right? Let's say that opportunity of networking, quote unquote, doesn't happen, lead anything today. But as people continue to go through the planning phase, like for us at Coursera, we may have been early, but other organizations may be doing this now, right? They'll reach back out to you when they understand or know you're someone who's seeking for a role, and you'll be top of mind. So it's really like you're doing your pre-work before you're actually putting in the quote unquote work of the interview process and going through the application.
fantastic, thank you. And Charmaine, I know you mentioned that you've just talked about holiday job search, so I'm excited to hear what you have seen and are thinking about it?
So Pathwise focuses on job seekers hoping to attain employment in the tech industry. So we have, 6 different tracks, all the way from marketing to software engineering, product strategy. But during the holidays, it's really such a great time to prepare for the new year and really being able to start the new year already accelerated, we would say. So a lot of the things that I talk to my fellows in our program about is, working on a new project, building a new feature on a project they've already done, figuring out how to highlight their accomplishments in their resume better, and then also translating those accomplishments into their LinkedIn, maybe into their AngelList profiles, into, different public profiles where recruiters can find you easily. A lot of times it's also a time to reach out. I tell them to do company research as well. This is also a great time to do that, so that, let's say in January, you come back, recruiters are coming back from break and they're able to send out, some cold emails or networking communications. And it really helps them really hit the new year running.
Good. And I have so many follow-up questions already, but I'm just holding on because I do want to give everybody a chance to speak first. So Hosea, love to hear from you.
Yeah, I was just have to echo what has already been said, especially what Pam had was alluding to. This year is unlike any other. So in times past, you see a lot of, and not to say that this doesn't occur now, but you will see a lot of temporary hiring going on around this time, and that's still the case now. But also there are a lot of permanent or direct placement opportunities that's right now. So you have your larger companies and mid-sized companies who have a staffing budget. And so they have to use that, because most companies, if you don't use it, then the higher ups will think that, hey, you don't need it, you can operate off of less. So they're going to use their whole staffing budget to add on staff. And this is the time that they're going to do that, so that the next fiscal year they can get more money so they can do more hiring. So this is now a great time to get your resume out there to as many companies, many opportunities as possible. Even temporary ones right now, get it out to those as well, because again, less of a gap as possible will be great. So even if you have to take a temporary opportunity right now, that's still fine, while you're also applying for those direct hires as well.
Fantastic, thank you. And I think I'm hearing a couple of a lot of interesting points, but one of the topics that's coming up, and we already have a question about that, is sort of the job search timeline. It sounds like there are some situations, Roshan, you mentioned, where you can start going into the budget of 2021, but then Jose, you just said that there are certain budgets that have to be spent this year. I know this year, has been a very difficult year for a lot of people. A lot of people have lost their jobs, which means they need a job immediately. No, this is a very broad question, but can any of you speak to, like, how can somebody plan their job search timeline? Like, can they expect that they will get a job in 2020, or is it all of everything that they're doing is pre-work for employment in 2021 at this point? And I'm taking, by the way I'm looking at this, I know all the panelists are muted when they're not speaking. So I'm taking you're unmuting yourself as you intend to speak.
I would definitely say that it all depends. So if you are realistic about your expectations in your job search, then yes, you can definitely get a job in 2020. Especially if you are open to the idea of a temporary opportunity or just a contract assignment with a agency or with a company that said, hey, we just need someone for X amount of time. So if you are a little open-minded to the opportunity, then yes. Now, if you want your dream job now, then you have to sit down and actually plan that out. It's not, it's just December 1st. So you still have call it 2.5 weeks to, again, get your resume out, get potential interviews, schedule in those 2.5 week time frame, because that third week you're looking at managers going out on Christmas break and some of them not coming back until after the first of the year. So I think it's all about level setting your expectations and then going from there.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else wanted to add anything to that?
I guess the only other thing I would say is that, working with a lot of executives, I mean, the more senior your position, the longer you need to plan, because, the more experienced positions and even key positions that maybe not super senior level, but they're really important hires for a company, they're more likely to involve more people, more rounds, more put into the process. So some opportunities might take longer, but be worth it in the end. So you have to try to hold on. Sometimes it feels like it's taking forever, but a lot of it is just the nature of the job search.
So am I correct in hearing that if I'm a job seeker who needs a job as soon as possible this year, then probably temporary or contract roles is something that I should be really pushing right now, going for right now. And then if there is not as much of sense of urgency, then the best way to spend my time is establishing those networking connections and reaching out to people. Is everybody in agreement on that?
Yeah, and you never know. Sometimes if you're eagle-eyed and you're keeping an eye out and you've been cultivating your network, something might come up. And some companies, they want to move, and you could just get lucky, but you have to be proactive and be out there to get lucky.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I also add to this is that sometimes people don't realize that this time frame is also when other individuals tend to leave the company and there's a backfill. There's need for backfills right away. And that's a great opportunity to join because the need is there, the requirement is there, and hiring managers are much more motivated to hire a backfill in an expedited process than they are a regular hire, because they are a little bit more, I would say, stringent on the requirements of those folks. But if it's a backfill, they're filling a need and they need someone in right away. So they're open and always willing to kind of push the envelope for those individuals. So definitely, like Pam said, keep an eagle eye, because those opportunities are out there and definitely would be something to be able to get into a full-time job right away.
Now, Roshan, I know this is a question people are going to have on their minds. You just mentioned those backfill jobs where there might be more urgency. Like, how can a job seeker find those opportunities or tell if a certain opportunity posted is actually a backfill with more urgency?
Yeah, and that's a difficult thing from a job seeker standpoint, because as you go to like our website, if you were interested in Coursera, for example, it doesn't say like, hey, this is a backfill, this is a high priority role. It's going to look like any other position. And that's kind of the fishing that you kind of have to do and their chance that you have to take, because sometimes it's hard for an individual company to say like, hey, we want all of these positions, because they might do something similar to us where they may post all of their positions for 2021 and really only 3 or 4 of those are actually backfills, right? So I don't have a specific way to say, hey, these are backfills or these are not. But the best way to be able to determine that is if you have a contact within the organization and you can ask them like, hey, I saw this position that's open, and they would be able to, from an internal standpoint, either reach out to the recruiter in charge or do their own due diligence and be able to provide that information. And when I say network, it doesn't necessarily mean someone who's direct connection to you, right? This is a great time to reach out to random people like that would potentially be a potential connection for you, right? Like, hey, Pamela, you are someone that works at X, Y, and Z company. I'm really interested. I saw you have a great background. Would you mind getting on the phone with me, or even just referring me into this position? That's as easy as that could be, to be able to find a pathway in. And like I said from the very beginning, if that referral comes in, that's an immediate signal to me as a recruiter to reach out to that individual right away.
So when somebody, and actually, let me pose this question to all of you. When I know a lot of people, when we talk about networking and we talk about having reaching out to strangers, people you don't know. I know a lot of people are often apprehensive and they're a little bit concerned that how that's going to come across. I'd love to hear everybody's perspective. What is your reaction to when somebody reaches out to you, and what is your experience and how other people react to that? Charmaine, I'm guessing, Charmaine, you have some feedback on that and experience with that.
I think that I've had varying reactions. There's sometimes I've been reached out to by people, and the message is as simple as, do you have any jobs open? And I'm like, okay, so I do think that, manners are really great when you are connecting. And I would also say, like, be short but concise, but also like charismatic. And so I work with fellows on crafting LinkedIn connection request messages, and then as well how to take that, right? So like after they do connect, like let's say they accept your invitation to connect, that doesn't mean like please ask for a referral right away, right? Like really teaching about informational interviews, and informational interviews are so important, especially this time of year, because even if the company doesn't have like positions open right now, they may have an ear to the ground and be able to tell you, hey, we're planning to have a position open in about a month. And so even just like job seekers talking about their strengths and getting on the phone with an actual person in the company, I mean, it can do wonders.
And Charmaine, I know, I'm guessing all of us here know on the panel what an informational interview is, but for those attendees who might not be familiar with this concept, do you mind giving a quick overview?
Absolutely. So an informational interview is when you might talk to someone who's not a recruiter or a recruiter, but oftentimes it may not be a recruiter. So for example, if you are a job seeker looking for, let's say, a software engineering job, you may look for a fellow software engineer, potentially one who maybe graduated from your same college. And you may say, hey, I was a fellow Aggie, alum, or, whatever mascot of your college, and say, I'd love to understand a little bit about what you do and kind of what was your path to this position, and really be able to understand what does their day-to-day look like, what are the skills that they utilize in their position. And it gives them kind of an insider scoop on what that company might be looking for during their hiring process as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And anyone wanted to add anything before I ask?
I mean, I will say, as someone who used to be an admitted reluctant networker, I think especially with LinkedIn, it's such a low risk thing to reach out to someone. And if you're respectful and if you don't take it personally, if they don't get back to you, some people aren't big LinkedIn users, they're busy, you caught them at the wrong moment. It's not usually a personal thing. But for most people, if you're professional and you seem like you're not a stalker or anything, they're probably going to say, okay, sure, let's connect. You're not asking them for anything at first. It's just sort of like, hey, we're both in the same field, or I'm interested in your field, and start to connect. And then, over time, you might be able to cultivate more of a relationship. But I know that I certainly would never think negatively about someone who reached out to me unless they were just, trying to sell me something very aggressively. I don't like those messages that much, but I think take your shot. All they can do is ignore it, and who knows what could come of it.
And I can't help adding that I think the biggest underutilized feature is adding a note when you reach out to someone, because I get so many LinkedIn requests that I don't know why a certain person is reaching out, but if you include a note and explain why you want to be a part of my network, there's no harm in that.
That's true, but also there are a lot of companies these days, they're doing what's called referral bonuses. So if you utilize LinkedIn and reach out to someone, especially at a company that you are interested in applying for, that person, if their company does that, they probably will refer you to their HR or TA team, because it's a win-win for them and you if you are the right candidate for that opportunity. So do not be afraid to reach out.
Yeah, that might be the easiest income the person you're reaching out to will ever make. And to follow up on that question, and again, it's like, because we're talking about this in the context of holiday season, sort of thinking through the timeline, reaching out for informational interview versus reaching out for a referral. What is your take on that? How do you strike that right balance? Should I ask for feedback, or should I ask for a job?
Ask for advice first is always my, again, it's a low risk for them. They can take a few minutes to chat with you. And also, I know for me, if I don't know anyone at all, or how serious they are, or, where their interests are, it's going to be hard for me to feel confident referring someone. But if someone makes a pitch to have a quick chat about something, I think that's a lot easier to say yes to, and to want to help someone. And then once you have that informational interview, and that sounds very formal, but an informational interview, it could be a long conversation, but it could be just a few minutes chat about your background and asking a few questions. Once I've spoken with someone and there's some kind of connection there, and I feel better about recommending that person to someone I know, you want to know that you're not going to pass along someone who's going to, be unprofessional or waste your contact's time. So yeah, I'm a big believer. Ask for advice before you ask for a job. Same thing. Ask for advice before you ask for money, right?
Yeah. And Roshan, I think you might have a slightly different perspective as a recruiter, or you might not. Would love to hear your take on that as well.
No, I agree 100%, because as a recruiter at an internal company, like I said, always reach out, always reach out. People do that, right? And I'm always inundated with emails about requests, or, hey, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in that, whatever it may be. But if you're doing and not reaching out to a recruiter, or if you are reaching out to a recruiter, we ourselves, our informational interview is the same as the interview you're going to get on the phone with us anyway. So we're going to be killing two birds with one stone, right? So I'll be able to give you all of the information that you're seeking, get all of the information I need, and then you're already past that first step of the interview process, quote unquote. So now it's up to me and the hiring manager to make the determination if you're going to move on to the next or the rest of the interview process. So from what I would say is, if you are speaking to a recruiter, that's great. The information interview will basically act as the first line of defense. If you're speaking to someone who's not a recruiter and is working at the organization, I would say a couple of things to keep in mind is they're not going to know everything, right? Like recruiters, our job is to basically be able to tell you everything about our organization. People that work in the organization aren't going to have that level of detail. So I would focus your conversation on what you're actually interested in, right? Have an elevator pitch ready for yourself. Say, I'm so-and-so from this background, I'm interested in this. I wanted to reach out to you because I see you're doing X, Y, and Z, and just get your thoughts on what you think our organization or your organization is going to be doing in the future. So I would definitely say, don't always go into an informational interview prepared to ask for referral, but if the conversation goes well, don't be afraid to ask for it right away, right? Like the biggest thing that I would say is timing is the biggest thing within the recruitment organization, or just TA in general. Literally, timing can be the difference of moving forward with an offer or moving forward with another candidate. And that's why I say always make the most of your time. So even if you're talking to a internal employee, ask them for a follow-up step or an action step afterwards to be able to make sure you're still continuing that conversation or keeping that network connection live. And then that way, whenever you need to, or whenever there's an opportunity, you can reach out to that individual already. You've established a rapport, and they will be able to basically, quote unquote, hasten your process of the interview. So.
And I think I just might have heard the greatest job search hack in history. Roshan, did you just say that if I reach out for an informational interview to a recruiter, then the conversation we're going to have is going to be like having a phone screen? Whereas if I apply for a job online, so many times I'm just never even going to hear back.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, quote unquote hack. Yes. Yeah. That is a hack that I would say that most people don't realize is like going through the application process. What we see on a daily basis, and I'll give you kind of like a visual into what I would do, right? If I have a new role open, I have 100 candidates. I basically have a little bit of time to go through all 100 candidates and reach out to the ones that I want. So what I do is very focused. I'm like very focused on those individual things that I'm looking for. But if I'm just talking to a person without any sort of expectation or any sort of idea of what they are, I can be more open to whatever pathway we have and go have a conversation based off of what that is going to lead to, whether that's interest, whether that's skill sets. And the other thing that we do a little bit different as an internal recruiter, right, is that we have a lot of puzzle pieces that are going around in the background, right? Like we know there's a lot of job openings in all of these different areas. I might not be recruiting for them, but if I'm having an informational interview with you and you tell me all of these things, I'm like, okay, all of these things would be good for me, but actually you're a better fit for my friend or my colleague. Let me pass you over to them. And then that's even a better way to get into an organization because you're more aligned with the role that you're actually interviewing for.
I was going to jump right in because that's right up my alley as well. Think about it this way. When you apply for a job, your resume goes to company's applicant tracking system. And if your resume does not have at least 80% to 85% of the keywords or the skill sets that they're looking for, you're not going to be at the top of the list. And so if you are reaching out to a recruiter for, you can call it informational, you can call it a resource meeting, whatever you want, either or. When you're reaching out to a recruiter just to get some tips or tools and just to network, that person would then talk to you about your whole resume and what you're looking for, what you're looking to do, what type of culture you want to work in. And as Roshan said, if you're not a good fit for whatever opportunity I may be working on, then you may be a fit for something that my partners are working on. And what happens is we can get your resume in front of hiring managers a lot quicker than applying directly to company X. Because again, you're going to this black hole of the ATS system where they have, for 5 openings, they may have, again, COVID time, so they may have 20,000 resumes that the system is going through. Whereas if you're going through an agency such as Career Circle or whomever else, then we have those direct relationships with a lot of these clients, and we're able to call up the hiring manager and say, hey, listen, I have candidate, Y, who is a great fit for this opportunity. Let me tell you why. Not just sending your resume over, say, hey, take a look at this, but really talking to the hiring manager and explaining you, the person, not just your resume, because you're more than just that piece of paper.
So Jose, it sounds like you would be the best friend for any job seeker. And because of that, I'm wondering, because everybody knows this, right? So do you have hundreds, thousands of people reaching out to you every day?
We definitely have a lot of individuals reaching out to us. They call in. We have calendar, like our calendars are just inundated right now. So we are booked, but we always make room. Even if we have to bring in additional team members to assist with, what we call information gathering. So speaking with a candidate, getting to know their goals, skills, and interests, documenting it, but then also connecting them with the right team member to assist them further in their job search. All the time we tell people we're just an extension of you. So you're applying on your own, but you also have the backing of, and again, don't pigeonhole yourself to just one company, one agency, or group to help you find employment. Reach out to several of them. No harm, no foul, because the best position to be in is to have 4 job offers and you deciding what you want instead of just having one that's mediocre, but yet you feel compelled to do it because you just in need of a job. So reach out to us. I know you all will have access to my email. And again, if I'm not able to reach back out to you, someone on my team definitely will.
Fantastic. And I should just mention that we're not going to be publicly sharing email addresses of our panelists today, but you can email career-support@coursera.org, and we will make sure to forward your question, answer it, whatever needs to happen. So just please follow up directly with career-support@coursera.org. Wonderful. So this conversation is really becoming a networking conversation, and I'm curious to hear maybe from Charmaine or Pam, sort of working. I know you have a lot of experience working with people who are in the job search process. What would you say are the biggest mistakes or misconceptions that people have that if you have the stage right now to share what it is that's really important for them to know, like what do you want job seekers to know about networking?
Just three words, don't give up. That is probably the biggest misconception. I've had fellows come back after a week and said, I sent 10 LinkedIn Connect messages. I didn't hear back from anyone yet. Therefore, I think that LinkedIn connections is not a good strategy. And they're ready to close up shop and give up. And I'm like, no. The job search is a numbers game. Unfortunately, it's a numbers game. So you have to have grit. And I think that if I were to talk to any job seeker, that is the number one thing that I think they think over the holidays. They're like, oh, I can't get a job over the holiday. I can't do anything over the holiday. I can't impact my job search over the holiday. And that is just such a myth. And it's really digging deep and sending and reaching out.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's great advice. And I think especially for all of my friends out there who are more on the introverted side, it can feel very painful to put yourself out there and do networking. And that's where LinkedIn and the fact that all of us are mostly seeing other people online these days kind of levels the playing field a little bit. You don't have to go to some event and stand in the corner and try to work up the nerve to go talk to someone you never saw before who's surrounded by 20 other people. And I mean, those can be really painful, especially for introverts. So online, it just feels a lot less risky. You get out there, you can use your skills. Introverts tend to be great at planning what they want to say, when they have the time, as opposed to being, thrust into the spotlight. So you can use your strengths to network. And yeah, I think the other thing is just, develop a little bit of a thick skin and not take it personally if you don't hear back from people, because it is a numbers game. So you're planting the seeds. Eventually you will see the results.
Right. And the other thing I forgot to mention was that actually, because a lot of these networking calls are now or coffee chats or whatever you call them are virtual, it actually gives people a little bit more time to plan. And so, I can sometimes hop on with job seekers and ask them and give them a checklist, like, this is what, you should be researching, like, how long have they been at the company, and so it's less impromptu, exactly how Pamela said, than, in person when you're like, you have no idea how long you're going to stand in line to talk to somebody.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you. And I want to do a little bit of an experiment, because I have a question in Q&A here, and I'm not going to reveal who asked that question, but the question, let me read the question and then give a little bit of context. So the question says, at everyone, what are your email addresses so I can send my resume? And my gut reaction to that question, that's a very, if you were to receive that person's resume, right, just a resume, you're probably not going to know what exactly to do with that. So the question to go along with that is, what is your reaction and what are your recommendations for when a person does reach out? What kind of information should they be including? Anyone?
Yeah, I can go here. So I would say I definitely received my fair share of just like resumes. At that point, it's really up in the air. Like sometimes they may get a look, sometimes they may not. If I don't have a messaging or a call to action that attached to the email or the resume, it's really hard for me to come up with a plan of action on how to be able to support this individual or this application that's coming in, resume, whatever it may be, right? So at that point, I'm also inundated with a lot of other things. And I'm just speaking from an internal standpoint that I don't have the opportunity or the time or the bandwidth to spend finding and seeking that role for you. If you can this is a big hack actually. If you could do my job for me, that'll be the biggest like way for me to proponent on your behalf. For example, and what I mean by that is if you can look on the role, like on our website, tell me exactly what role you're interested in and tell me why you're interested in, then I would be able to do way more for you and go a lot further in terms of my conversations, or like Jose said earlier, I'm basically your representative internally, right? So the more information you can give me, the more I can speak on your behalf. So that's what I would say. If you're going to email someone, have a purpose, have a call to action, have a reason to email. Don't just email and send a resume, because I guarantee you, most people don't have the time to go through it and find that opportunity for you. But if you do a little bit of due diligence and do that work for them, I guarantee you they'll go tenfold in terms of the effort to find you a position.
Yeah, making it easier. I think that's the same thing with networking. I think this is sort of a related note, 'cause I'm not a recruiter, but if someone sends me an email, for advice or for help, if they tell me I'm interested in this type of role at this type of company, do you know anyone, or can you give me any, you know, that makes my life a lot easier. I might be able to, in that 5 minutes that I happen upon it, to forward it to the right person, or send them, some advice or a suggestion. So whatever you can do to make it easier for the people you're contacting to help you, whether that's in networking or to get your resume looked at for an opportunity.
Mhm. Thank you so much for that. And we have about 8 minutes to go. So I want to make sure that we circle back on some of the questions that we have. And again, because we're talking about job search during the holiday season, because we're in 2019, oh, I'm sorry, in 2020, and I'm dreaming of 2019, because we're in 2020, and there's a lot of people who are under a lot of pressure to find employment. One of the question is, how long does typically unemployment last? And again, with full understanding that it varies, but when it comes to job search, how long and how do people plan for how long it takes to find that job? And if they have to take some sort of low wage temporary work in the process, should they put it on their resume, or what's the right way to approach that?
So I'll jump in. So again, it depends. The more effort you put into the job search for the planning of it, sometimes the less you'll spend actually unemployed. Now, COVID, this is a different season, right? And so some people have been out of work longer than they ever have been, or longer than anticipated. And some opportunities or some skill sets, it's taking a longer than usual time for it to come back. So you have to be just realistic about the times that we're in. There are times where you have to take a more opportunity to get back where you want to go. Now, if you have the financial means to not do that, then some would say, you know what, listen, as long as it takes for me to get back to where I was, and I'm going to take this time to not only applying for the opportunities, but network, but also engage in some type of upscaling, whether it's through Coursera or Google or whatever it may be, just to refine your skills and to add to your certifications. So it depends on what opportunities you're looking for. If you expecting, listen, I'll be unemployed for a month, but during that time, I am going to be looking for opportunities for at least, call it a full-time job, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week of me applying for opportunities, me networking, me doing interview prep with friends or with former coworkers or what have you. So you have to be realistic about that opportunity, but don't be afraid to take a temporary position while you're also looking for your dream job, because some income is better than no income at all. And a lot of hiring managers, they will tend to ask you about a particular gap in your resume. They understand that, hey, COVID has been for the last 18 months, but there have been a ton of people who have gotten back to work, albeit not at the same level that they once were, but yet they're back working now. And so hiring manager will ask you to explain that or talk through that. So even if you say, listen, I took this temporary opportunity while I was looking for this permanent role as a software engineer where I was before COVID, they would look at that and say, okay, awesome. So you just were not, sitting at home doing nothing pretty much. So it all depends.
Anyone else has thoughts on how long the job search might take and what to do with temporary employment that you take during your job search?
Yeah, I mean, I think he did a great job of explaining exactly what to do. Like the biggest thing that if you are having a gap of employment is being able to explain that gap of employment, right? Whatever that reasoning may be. I took time off to take care of a sick relative, whatever it is. Like I wanted to chase a passion and start a cookie industry. I don't know. These are all real examples I've actually have had in the past. So I'm just showcasing from my experience. But as long as we have an idea or a reason why you took that gap of and we can explain it to, like Hosea said, to the hiring managers, because that's the biggest thing is being able to explain why you're doing the things you are and the call and being able to understand, you weren't just sitting at home. You weren't just not doing anything. You were actively trying to find employment, or you were active in some sort of activity that showcases your dedication, your craft, whatever it is. And that's the biggest thing that I can say is like, take the temporary job and still work towards your dream job. Take those classes while you're still job searching. Pick up a hobby. Do something while you're job searching so we can help you be that proponent on the internal standpoint to showcase that you are well-rounded individual and you are more than just your gap of employment.
I love that.
And not agree with this more. I have fellows that, come into our program and they're like, 1 to 2 years, 3 years, even up to 4 years, like out of work. And, I ask them, well, tell me about what you've done. And they're like, oh, no, I didn't do anything. Well, tell me what you've done. Well, I built a lot of side projects. And I'm like, that's amazing. Tell me more. Oh, they're not big, but they actually are. And we were able to extract the skills from those projects, really put them on the resume. And all of a sudden that work gap is gone, and so it's really a matter of just what they did. And, a lot of them, they attended tech boot camps, or they took Coursera courses, or, things like that. And none of it was on the resume. And so they were like, well, people must not want me because, I never get any calls back. Well, it's not showing on your resume. I even had a fellow once actually put it on his cover letter because he had a chronic condition, and it unfortunately put him out of work for like a whole year. And he wrote that in his cover letter, and he was so afraid. He was so afraid to do that. And I said, you don't have to expand, a whole lot on it. You just put it on your cover letter, and then you talk about what you've done since then, since you've recovered, and how you've really built up your skills. And he had started getting interviews, and he couldn't believe it. And so, I think that there is a lot to be said, about really making your time that you are unemployed definitely count.
Thank you so much.
Be alone. That's the only other thing I'll say. You won't be alone. A lot of people have gaps now, and it's almost going to be like, well, who's going to stand out because they use the gap in a more creative way or in a more entrepreneurial way. So
entrepreneurial. I love that. And we have just 2 minutes left. Let me say a couple of things and then I'll let you close off. But first of all, thank you so much. We have a lot of great questions that come in. I'm going to tell the attendees, if we didn't get to your question, if you have a particular question to a particular attendee, you've seen in chat career-support@coursera.org. Please feel free to follow up. If you're watching this in recording, I can't promise you we're going to be able to get questions to everybody months from December 2020, but if you're watching this live, definitely feel free to follow up. Again, our dear panelists, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your wisdom. And really quickly, just to close out, can I ask each one of you to share either just like your 1-sentence favorite job search advice that you'd like to broadcast to the world, or a favorite success story of a job seeker, extra bonus points if it's from the holiday season? Just an easy question.
I'll start. I'll be predictable because I will say prepare for your interviews, because, you know, you shouldn't be expected to just go in there and wing it and be perfect. And especially back to the whole introvert thing, right? A lot of people are nervous in interviews. And so they go in there and they blow that opportunity. So making sure that you prepare well to highlight yourself and what's great about you and why you're interested in the job, and take that extra time to prepare, because as we've heard, it's hard sometimes to find those opportunities. Once you have them, you want to be ready to really shine in the interview. And yeah, just a quick success story, very brief, is that I do have a client who first got a job during the holiday season, and then got a new job right in the thick of COVID April. So, and he was terrible at interviewing at the beginning and very uncomfortable and almost phobic about it. So yeah, it's a lot of it is timing and luck, but you have to be out there and you have to be working it. So.
Yeah, one thing I would say, and I think this kind of, people tend to forget this, is we are people and you're people, right? Like, make sure you do not make the situation bigger than it is. Right? You're really just talking to another individual, another human being. And if you can establish a connection with that, that's the biggest thing. And I think most people, when they go into an interview or into like a situation like this, they anticipate that they have to be perfect. No one is perfect. We're not looking for perfect. We're just looking for a good individual that we can work with and help grow, right? So that's the biggest thing. Treat people like people, and I guarantee you it'll go far.
My advice would be to find a partner. So, you know, find a mentor, find a friend, find a buddy. I think I sometimes job search can be, I've seen it be called dehumanizing. I've seen it be called depressing. And I think especially, you know, during COVID, when there's so many people job searching, it's actually an opportunity to really kind of get study buddies and be innovative. One time I had a fellow who was really waiting on an offer for all of December, and he finally did get an offer on December 23rd. And that was probably my favorite offer story.
I would say don't give up. Oftentimes, especially during the holiday period, people tend to stop applying for opportunities. I would say that you've done the hard part already by getting your certificate in whatever program you've gotten it in. Many of you will probably be the Google IT support certificate, or whatever it may be. You've done that hard part already. And so now it's the task of not giving up, applying for opportunities, those that you know that you are qualified, but also those opportunities that you may only be about 50 to 75% qualified for. Still apply, take that risk. I had a gentleman who was in manufacturing for 20 years. He upskilled and got his IT support certificate, looking to change industries altogether. He thought, you know, hey, I've only been in manufacturing. That's all I've ever done. I've gotten this. I probably will never find an opportunity. Well, after meeting with my team and understanding, you know, hey, you're the IT guy at home, at your church, and even at your job, whenever there are issues, people come to you when the front and back office support team are extremely busy. And so we were able to turn that into, you know, marketable skills for him, and talking to hiring managers, and that individual did get a job in a IT support role. So I love stories like that. Never underestimate your past experiences, because they will help you in whatever opportunity you're applying for.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again so much for being here and sharing your expertise. I love how we're ending on a positive note. That there are jobs out there, there are great success stories, and that people on the other side are human beings. So thank you so much, Jose, Roshan, Pam, Charmaine. Thank you for being here. Everybody, again, career-support@coursera.org if you have any follow-up questions. And oh, I should mention, Coursera.community is where you can find Coursera's job search forum. So new events that happen, new resources that we have will always be posted there. Please keep an eye out. And happy holidays, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.